So this like just dropped this morning. Destiny 3 is in extremely early development at Bungie, a leaker claims. A well-known Destiny leaker, so this is somebody who's done this type of coverage of Bungie stuff before, has leaked that Destiny 3 has entered extremely early development, giving fans hope after years of waiting. This couldn't have come at a better time, as the company is struggling to build out its latest game, of course, Marathon, which itself has actually received an update. Some of you guys might have even received invitations to this thing, but basically Marathon is having another play test that I think is taking place over the course of mid-December, and it is also strictly under NDA, so nobody will be allowed to talk about it, but no doubt people will, and we'll find out some stuff about it. But they are still progressing, and they're trying to tie this together, and wrap it up. I think what their hope is now is that they can come in with Marathon at the precise moment that Arc Raiders is kind of trailing off and people are getting bored with it. That's at least the hope for them, and that they can kind of scratch that itch or offer people an alternative, at least for a little bit. But who knows how that goes. At the same time all of this is going on, though, reportedly they are working on a sequel to Destiny. Now, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. They described it as being in extremely early development. Some of you may have seen the tweet early this afternoon that mentioned that. We have been sitting on the info for a few weeks and wanted to wait to talk about it, seeing as it is in such an early state, and it just sucks to see others post about it carelessly for free internet points. We plan to share more in the coming months as we wait on larger scale things to develop and take shape. Sit tight. Live service games tend to take like a decade. Okay, like they take a long time to build. I would not expect this to come anytime soon. Okay, like I wouldn't. So yes, it might be very, very early development. It almost certainly is a PlayStation 6 game, and is coming well after Marathon comes and either outperforms or underperforms, who knows, but it's a very long ways off. So anybody who's like, oh, they're gonna expedite that and put that out right after Marathon, no, that's not really how this works. I'm not surprised though. I mean, this is one of those that kind of passes the gut check, because they got to make up that $3.5 billion price tag somehow. Everybody knows that was probably the worst single acquisition in the history of the games industry. $3.6 to $3.7 billion for a company that has missed revenue targets by as much as 50 to 100%, depending on the quarter we're looking at. And literally, since they've been bought, I don't think they have made Sony a penny, which ain't good. That's bad. It's bad. It's not what you want. So they got to make it up somehow, and apparently they're going to try to make it up by pushing for a Destiny 3. Who knows how that works, frankly. I would not get my hopes up, but that's reportedly what they're working on. So time will tell. Time will tell. Lost money? Yeah, I mean, at some point, I do think multiple things are true. I think that Bungie executives greenlit a bunch of different projects and had a bunch of stuff cooking. They had a bunch of pots on the stove so that they could go and say, we have all this stuff coming out. And if it's even half as successful as Destiny 2, we're going to make, I mean, we're worth $4 or $5 billion. I mean, we're worth a lot. Look at all the stuff we're doing. 5 big AAA games, and we're working on like a movie and mobile games and stuff. Easy money. And then they buy them, and it turns out a lot of that stuff needs to be canceled because it's crap, or needs to be reworked, or Destiny is slowly dying and they don't really have any plans for building it up. And so all of it was kind of fake. But it's the same exact thing that happened with like ZeniMax when they were shopping around trying to find a buyer in 2018, where they greenlit a ton of projects, a lot of live service projects, everything from Redfall, for example, all the way to Fallout 76. They greenlit all these projects to try and appear more valuable to a potential buyer. They got bought for a top dollar amount, but all those games were kind of fake and amorphous, and it's not great. The valuation needs to be studied. Well, and that's where like we can point to Bungie executives for exaggerating what they were doing and kind of fudging a little bit of it to get a higher price point. But the blame ultimately still lands on the people, like the very capable business people at Sony, who looked over this deal and still thought it was worth doing. And what else do we know about that era of PlayStation? They were willing to throw money at pretty much anything so long as it had live service next to it. Like Concord, hundreds of millions of dollars on Concord. Even if it wasn't 400 million, the conservative estimate is with the studio purchase and all the money they spent on it and with advertising and marketing and everything, it still was at least a $200 million project on something any one of us could have looked at and been like, nope. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. So I have very little sympathy. I think they were meant for each other. Like, you ended up with Bungie being toxic and exaggerating how much they were worth, and then PlayStation was so gung-ho and irrationally dedicated to live service stuff that they ended up overspending like crazy. And I don't feel that bad, frankly. I don't feel that bad. COVID number of players blinded these companies. I do think that was part of it, is that they looked at those numbers and thought this is the new normal. It was quite short-sighted. I think it was also that Jim Ryan came in and there was a bit of like a shakiness within PlayStation's executive headquarters where they were looking at it and they were like, at that time, again, rewind the clocks to like 2020, 2021, 22, Microsoft was coming in and spending tens of billions of dollars on acquisitions. I think they seriously were fearing that if they didn't come in and buy something, that Microsoft would just gobble up everybody that was for sale. And so they thought, we'll go after Bungie. They have very successful live service games. We'll buy them before Microsoft can. But I don't think Microsoft would have paid $3 to $4 billion for Bungie. Like, I don't think that makes sense. Because you got to remember, Bungie was not like this big publicly traded company. When you're a big publicly traded company, the benefit is that the market has priced your company. The market has done the research, done the digging to figure out what you're worth. And sometimes it's overhyped. Sometimes it trades on speculation, on crazy growth potential, things like that. But in general, the market has priced it. With companies like Bungie, was it Firewalk, the guys behind Concord, or ZeniMax? These were all privately held companies. So they had to do all the digging and pricing themselves to figure out how much these companies were worth. And there's a lot more question marks around there. But anyway, they're allegedly working on it. We won't see it anytime soon. And even when we see it, I don't know if it will be enough to help them and save them, but time will tell.